mad stuff, talking equations and scientific formulas, and the maddest thing of all is that he was doing it in German. He gazed around the faces gathered in this basement room, then continued, "So I shot home, and it turned out my mother was right. Tim had gone mad. Genuinely cracked. He was doing a lot of skunk with his chums at uni. Maybe that was a catalyst, but I think he was schizophrenic anyway. Because that's when schizophrenia usually kicks in between the ages of 18 and 25. I didn't know that then, of course." The middle-aged woman was sipping from a plastic cup of tea. "Tim was a science student. Seriously bright, much brighter than me. I can barely say bonjour, but he could speak 4 languages. As I say, he was doing a physics PhD at Oxford, but he'd come home suddenly, without warning, and he was ranting, quoting scientific formulas in German. Doing it all night, walking up and down the landing. Das Helium und das Hydrogen, blah, blah, blah. All through the night. My parents realized my brother had a pretty serious problem, and they took him to a doctor, and they prescribed Tim the usual drugs. The wretched little pills. Antipsychotics. Well, they worked for a while, but one night when I was home for Christmas, I heard this muttering noise, and it was this voice. Again. Yes, das Helium and das Hydrogen. And I lay there wondering what to do. But then I heard this terrible scream, and I rushed from my bedroom, and my brother was in... He closed and opened his eyes. My brother was there in my mother's bedroom, and they were alone because my father was away, and my brother was attacking her, hacking at my mother with a machete. A big knife, a machete. I don't know precisely what it was, but he was chopping away at her, our mother, so I jumped him and I held him down, and there was blood everywhere, just everywhere, actually sprayed up the walls. I very nearly throttled him. Almost killed my own brother." Simon drew breath. "The police came and they took him away, and my mother went to hospital and they stitched her up, but she lost the use of some fingers, some nerves were severed. But that was all, really, which was incredibly lucky. She could have died, but she was all right. And then we had this terrible dilemma as a family. Should we press charges? My father and I said yes, but my mother said no. She loved him more than the rest of us. She thought he could be treated. So we agreed with her. Stupidly, crazily, we agreed. Then Tim came home and he seemed okay for a while on the drugs, but then one night I heard it. Das Helium und das Hydrogen. Simon could feel the sweat on his forehead. He hurried on with his story. Tim was muttering again in his room, and of course that was that. We called the police, and they came straight round. Then they put Tim in an asylum. And that's where he is now, locked and bolted and shut in his box. He's been there ever since. He'll be there the rest of his life." As his conclusion approached, he experienced the usual relief. "So that's when I started drinking. To forget, you know. Then sulfates, and then pretty much everything. But I finally stopped the boozing 6 years ago, and yes, I did my course of NA antibiotics, my 60 meetings in 60 days. And I've been clean ever since. And now I have a wife and a son, and I dearly love them. Miracles do happen. They really do. Of course, I still don't know why my brother did what he did and what that means, but I look at it this way. Maybe I haven't got his genes. Maybe my boy will be all right. Who knows? One day at a time. And that's my story. And thanks very much for listening. Thank you." A murmur of thank yous filled the warm, fuggy space like the responses of a congregation. The ensuing silence was a coda. The hour was nearly up. Everyone stood and hugged and said the Serenity Prayer. And then the meeting was finished, and the addicts filed out, climbing up the creaky wooden stairs out into the grey.